How do you keep your baby healthy in today's toxic world? You need a balanced immune system.
Right.
If we highly vaccinate at a very young age and vaccinate while you're pregnant, it tips the immune system into autoimmunity and allergy.
Okay.
And now that's a problem.
Right.
But don't worry, we have immunosuppressants, so we can
be on the rest of your life. Just
don't
to
worry.
balance it
Yeah,
back
we can
out.
balance you back.
We can drug you the rest of your life. You'll be just fine.
Unfortunately, immunosuppressants, the #1 moneymaker in the country, tip you the other way. Now what do you get? Cancer and infections. So the science is already there. We understand why we're having vaccines trigger people into autism. Hundreds of articles showing that overstimulation of the immune system when they're very young, immune activation it's called, triggers neurodevelopmental problems. So I was in this dilemma. I get approached by authorities and say, prove to us that what you're doing, your vaccine information, which I'm not anti-vaccine, like I said, we're vaccinating all the time. Most of my patients vaccinate, but almost none of them follow the CDC schedule. So I commissioned an independent quality assurance project. That's the only way you can do it. This guy who came in, Dr. Graven, he had no interest in any agenda.
No skin in the game.
Not at all. He's a scientific nerd. Sorry, Dr. Graven. He really is. The guy's brilliant. He has set up health informatics systems in 45 countries.
Wow.
He did a deep dive into my data, and I said, just to begin with, find how many are unvaccinated, and then list all the vaccines that everybody got in my practice who was born into my practice. It turned out he found 3,345 patients born into my practice in the last 10 and a half years.
Okay.
So this is just a perfect sample size. Let's look at the outcomes. I said, look at their vaccines, every single one of them, and let's just start with autism. That always seems to be the elephant in the room.
Sure, right.
So he looked at it. Here's what he found. There were 715 with 0 vaccines, unvaccinated, out of those 3,345. 1 case of autism.
Okay.
All right. A rate of 1 in 715.
Right. We're currently at right around 1 in 36 or 1 in 50,
45, whatever you want.
Depending on which study you're looking at.
Right. Well, what about the others who were vaccinated? So we've got 2,645 partially vaccinated.
Okay.
They got anywhere from 7 or 8 vaccines up to about 16 or 18, I think was the most. Most kids this age would have had somewhere between 25 to 40.
Got it.
So they're like, slower.
Right.
Those patients mostly followed the vaccine-friendly plan.
Okay.
But I do want to clarify for your listeners, because I'm not promoting the book, I'm not promoting the vaccine-friendly plan, I'm just sharing data.
This is just data.
This is just data.
This is what it found.
There were 6 cases in those 2,645 for an autism rate of 1 in 440.
Wow.
Compare that to 1 in 40 or 1 in 45.
Yeah.
This is a 1,000% improvement.
Right.
What would that mean for real-life Californians? We have about 400,000 births a year in California, and if you reduced the data of autistic kids, we would be saving 9,000 cases of autism every year.
Just in California?
Just in California.
Wow.
In the country where we have 4 million births, we're talking 90,000, almost 100,000 cases of autism per year being spared if you believe this data.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So sometimes I ask, well, what do you think? Do you believe it? I don't know. It's real life data, as Dr. Graven said. He says there's nothing more powerful. It's more powerful than a study. What they're going to find, the researchers that finally look at this data, is that those 715 unvaccinated are the highest risk of all. And here's why. So in my practice, you came in as a new family.
Yeah.
If your other 2 children, you had autoimmune issues or autism, we're going to say, you're at higher risk for damage from vaccines. You may want to think about just going with none. All right.
Interesting.
We don't have
more of the people in that group came into
higher
you
risk.
At a higher risk
Absolutely.
level, and you still are at 1 in 715.
Yes.
That's amazing.
So it's amazing. This is a very high risk group. I suspect we'd be more like 1 in 1,000 or 10,000 if we had a just low risk population like most people. So anyway, the data's extremely powerful, and I totally agree with you at the beginning of your show. We need more data.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Dr. Paul is not saying vaccines cause autism, but he's sharing data that
You're
seems
showing
to...
us a signal.
I want to clarify one thing for your listeners, because if people go out and buy the vaccine-friendly plan and they implement it by the book,
Okay.
they're going to have worse numbers than the 1 in 440.
Okay.
So here's why.
Why?
In addition to following that program, if that's what you choose to follow, if you're out there thinking, oh, this is a good thing for me, make sure you don't have a lot of autoimmunity in your family. Right. Make sure you don't have a lot of neurodevelopmental stuff like autism. That just puts you into a much higher risk.
All those that you threw into the unvaccinated
Yeah, those
category.
would be in the unvaccinated. But the vax side, where we had a 1 in 440, it would be way worse than that if it weren't for another thing. So this is why I want to just clarify this, so people don't just blindly follow this.
Yeah.
You're going along with the vaccine-friendly plan or Dr. Sears' approach or some slower approach, which is probably a wise choice.
Yeah.
And your child starts to have some delays or what I call glitches. You know, I had one this week that was starting to flap. They were brilliant in every other way. Fine motor, gross motor language, even eye contact with somebody. They're starting to flap. Or maybe they start losing some skills. A little bit of loss of eye contact, a little bit of loss of... You stop. No more vaccines.
Right.
That kid just gave you a signal.
Right.
A very strong physical signal. I'm having trouble. My immune system's having trouble.